Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Let's Make a Better World. This is my first video in a new feature, which I'm going to feature throughout Trump's second term as president. It's called Trump Smokeout. And like I promised, I advertised this on, I think it was on my Facebook channel, Old Time Rock and Roll. At first, I was going to put it on old time rock and roll. I decided not to do that because I'd kind of rather leave politics out of that site. Whereas I think this is a better forum for it. So, anyway, what I'm going to do, I don't know how many guys have visited my YouTube channel, Old Time Rock and Roll, but for the last a little over a year, I've been running a feature on that channel. I'm doing a countdown of what I consider roughly my top 3,000 songs of the rock era, from the 50s through the end of the millennium, basically, last millennium anyway. It's been a lot of fun, and I've got a big audience, I got a big following, and, I am a rock and roll trivia buff. And what I decided to do for this feature is, I'm gonna feature a song every week on this channel. First of all, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna try to do this every week, every Sunday. Today's January 19th. I picked today to start because tomorrow is gonna be Trump's inauguration, the second inauguration, and I don't think I can even bring myself to watch it because he's just disgusts me so much. But anyway, enough of that. So I just wanted to explain this feature to you guys. So I'm gonna do it every week, and I call it Smoke Out because I'm gonna get high. I already am a little bit high, by the way. I don't know if you guys can tell. Not super high. If I was super high, I probably wouldn't be able to talk this coherently. But I did. I have some dope at home. I can show it to you if you want. It's this stuff called the R.E.M. I'm not an expert on marijuana, but I bought it about a month ago here in Vegas, and it is legal here where I live in the state of Nevada. As a matter of fact, I believe marijuana is now legal for recreational use. Last I checked, it was 24 out of 50 states, and it's legal for medicinal use in most of the rest of them. I'm pretty sure it's going to be legal nationwide pretty soon. Anyway, I'm not breaking the law. It is legal to smoke it here in Nevada, and I think it's even legal to make a YouTube video about it. So that's what I'm doing. Supposedly this is still a free country. We have free speech and freedom of expression, so this is my way of expressing myself, I guess. And, anyway, enough of all that. I don't want to keep dragging on about that. But the other thing I'm going to do with this channel, I mentioned my old time rock and roll channel. I'm counting down, what I consider my list of the top 3,000 songs of the rock era. There were a few that didn't make my list that probably should have. I mean, it's hard to, it took me like a month to just make the list, and it's easy to leave some good ones out. And so I think what I'm going to do is every week I'm going to leave one out that I think maybe should have been on the list, but it's also going to be something that's relevant to what's going on in the news and mostly pertaining to Trump. And the song I featured for today, this is what I'm calling Trump Smokeout song number 0. I'm going to count these upward because, it's not a countdown, but I'm counting up if you like, since, throughout Trump's presidency, he's not president yet, and I guess that's why I'm calling this song number 0. And by the way, mathematicians prefer starting counting with 0 rather than 1. There's a lot of reasons, a lot of good reasons for that. And I think, people have studied computer science kind of know that. I don't want to bother you guys with all this, but anyway, it does kind of make sense to start a list with 0. But anyway, the song I picked for today is It's the End of the World as We Know It and I Feel Fine by R.E.M. And I remember, I'll just say a little bit about the song while I continue. Here's a picture of the singles jacket, and I remember when this song came out, and it's not a bad song. I mean, it's pretty dark, as you can imagine. Any song about the end of the world is pretty dark, and he's saying he feels fine, even though it's the end of the world as he knows it. And maybe that's about the best you should feel. I mean, if the world ends or if the world's in danger of ending and you can't do anything about it, why not just enjoy as much of it as you can, right? I mean, why let it get you down? I mean, why let things get you down anyway? You might as well make the best of what's going on. I mean, I've always wanted to make the world a better place. I am kind of an idealist. A lot of people have told me this throughout my life. I'm too idealistic. I wish too much that the world would get better when it's really basically, humans are savages and, war is an inevitable state of humanity and it's a dog eat dog world, all this shit. I mean, a lot of people believe all this stuff. There's a lot of cynics out there. And I guess there's a lot of good reasons to be cynical when you kind of look at history and you look at how we're doing the same things we've been doing all throughout our history. I mean, I think we are getting better. Don't get me wrong, because I read a book, a couple of years ago. That was a very influential book for me. It was by a very famous sociologist named Steven Pinker. It's called The Better Angels of Our Nature. And he basically what he says in this book is that throughout human history, things have been getting better and better. I mean, we don't have good perspective on history because, we only live about, on the average, about 80 years or so. And, I mean, human history goes back, at least civilized human history goes back about 10,000 years. And, at least according to the book I was talking about, The Better Angels of Our Nature, like, he has statistics on homicide rates and fatality rates, from wars and from being killed by other people. And basically, if you look at like primitive man, I think even ancient man, it was close to 50-50. There was close to 50% chance he would have been killed. Maybe by a member of a native tribe, maybe during warfare. Who knows? I mean, but now, even in the United States, where we have a lot of gun violence, I think that the chance of being murdered is still only less than about 1%. I think it's only about a 0.5%, and that seems kind of high. I mean, none of us want to think we have a 1 in 100 or 1 in 200 chance of being murdered, but you have to remember that 5,000 years ago it would be more like 50% chance. So in that sense, we're much safer. And I mean, I didn't even talk about all the conveniences of modern society. I mean, I guess that doesn't have much bearing on human nature. And another argument I've heard is, our genes are still the same as they were when we were cavemen. I mean, yeah, we still have the same DNA basically. But I don't think we're just a product of our DNA. I think we're also a product of our environment, and we're a product of the knowledge we've accumulated throughout history. And we have a lot of more high level, concepts going on in our heads these days, and we have history to look back at. And hopefully, we've learned some lessons. I mean, a lot of cynics think we haven't, but I like to think that we've been learning lessons throughout history. And there's a famous quote by Winston Churchill. I think somebody else said this too. He said, "Those who don't learn a lesson from history are doomed to repeat it." Well, I see a big repetition with Trump. I mean, I don't know why the hell he got elected. Yeah, I want to say a little bit more. Here's the band R.E.M. I guess when they got started out, they look kind of like typical young guys in the 90s. I don't know. They look kind of like slackers to me. But I don't know. They're not one of my favorite groups. But I do kind of like this song, It's the End of the World as we know it, and I Feel Fine, which is what I'm featuring in it. I guess if I'm going to mention a news story today, tomorrow's, I'm sure you guys all know, is inauguration day for Trump, and I can barely even stand looking at the guy. I mean, he's been looking worse and worse. He almost looks like a madman to me. I don't know how they managed to get a picture of him smiling. He never smiles. I mean, I've seen pictures of him where he looks really, really angry and kind of resembles Hitler in a way. And he's been compared a lot to Hitler. I mean, I guess now people aren't doing that so much since they know he's going to be president. Starting tomorrow. I mean, he's not Hitler. I mean, the thing is, even though I think he is a megalomaniac, and I also think he's evil. He is the only president who ever tried to take the country by force, who did not respect the peaceful transfer of power. Not only that, I mean, I want to go through everything bad he's done, plus his 34 criminal indictments and all that. I mean, how could we elect a felon? How could we elect a convicted felon? It should be behind bars for the rest of his life. I mean, that just makes me so sick. And I actually thought that Harris was going to win this thing. I mean, I spent a month campaigning for Harris. Back on, I think it was October, October through November, right up to the election. And we were kind of convinced, not just me, but most of the people I was working with. I mean, I think most of us were convinced that she would pull this off. She was ahead in the polls most of the time she was running, and I don't know why at the last minute. I mean, it was a very close election too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's only I think 4 million. He won by like 4 million popular votes, maybe 2% of the people who voted. That's a pretty close election in terms of popular votes, and even in terms of electoral votes. I mean, what was it 3? I think he got 326, if I'm not mistaken, and I think Harris got 212, or I don't remember, or 312 and 226. That's pretty damn close. We haven't had very many elections in our history that were that close, even electoral votes. So it was a very close election. And, I mean, we all know about the Electoral College now, which I think is really obsolete. I mean, not only is it biased towards the Republicans, but, we didn't used to be so geographically divided either. I mean, I've talked about this in some other videos I've made on this channel. I mean, I even want to talk about Trump, but I guess this is a Trump smokeout. We might as well be talking about him. And I'd like to be talking about what we can do while he's president. I mean, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna, besides this, doing this feature every week, getting high. I'm gonna do some political activity. I'm gonna, do more. I mean, I may demonstrate, but I mean, locally, I'm gonna try to find some local groups to work with and try to fix things. I mean, you know, uh, I'm reminded of a very, very excellent movie I'm sure most of you guys have seen called It's a Wonderful Life. Classic movie from a long time ago. I think it was made in 1946, but I think you guys all know the story. I mean, this guy who does good his whole life, George Bailey, does everything to help everybody he cares about, but he has a pretty horrible life, and it's so bad that he almost ends up killing himself, but then his guardian angel comes and shows him what the world would be like if he'd never been born. And I think there's an amazing scene in that movie because he shows him firsthand everything terrible that would have happened if he'd never been born. I mean, he didn't see the difference he was making in the world. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make here. Just by being a good person, you probably have made a big difference in this world. And I think if enough of us do the right things, believe in the right things and do the right things, then I think we can fight off this menace. I mean, we've gone through hard times in the past. I don't think we've ever had a president anywhere nearly as bad as Trump, but we've had some pretty major crises in our history that we've gotten through, like the Civil War. I mean, a lot of people think there's going to be another Civil War. I hope not. I'd rather see a revolution than a civil war. I wouldn't mind seeing a repeat of the French Revolution. Maybe a big angry mob will come in and storm the White House and decapitate Trump. And I'd be perfectly happy with that. But, I mean, that's again repeating history. And the French Revolution didn't turn out so great. They ended up with Napoleon after all this mob rule for about 20 years. It wasn't a very good time. I mean, the American Revolution worked a lot better. So I think we have to have a peaceful revolution. And JFK had a good quote about that. He said, Anyone who tries to make peaceful revolution impossible makes violent revolution inevitable." So think about that. I mean, I'm for peace. I hate violence myself. Like I said, I'm an idealist, and I hate war, and not just war. I hate physical violence. I wish we weren't physically violent to each other. I wish we would just try to get along with each other. I mean, I do kind of think that human conflict's an inevitable condition, but I don't think it has to be done physically. I think if we want to have conflicts with other fellow human beings, we might as well just insult them. That's a lot more civil than actually raising a fist. And, I've always been small my whole life. When I was a kid, I got bullied all the time. So I'm used to that. I'm still short. I'm only 5'4". not only that, I'm overweight. I mean, I wouldn't stand a fight against most people, physical fight. But if I wanted to tell someone off, I could think of some pretty harsh things I could say to them that, would just probably make them depressed for a week. So I'm smart. That's a value I have that I've always had, and I think maybe it was a reason I got bullied so much as a kid. I think a lot of other kids were jealous of me because I was a lot smarter than them. I mean, I am smart. I'm not going to deny that. I don't know what my IQ is exactly. I think it's somewhere around 150. I don't think IQ. I don't think we even know exactly what that means. But I am smart. I know that. And I know there's different kinds of intelligence. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have street smarts. I don't have very good street smarts. I probably wouldn't survive in the middle of the inner city in the middle of the night, along with some gangs, carrying knives or guns. I don't think I'd do so well in that kind of environment. But and I am on the spectrum. I do have Asperger's syndrome, so I don't relate naturally to people. I'm probably the best I've ever been in my life on that, but I've still got a long ways to go, and I've done my best. I've been doing my best my whole life. I don't want to keep talking about myself here, but I'm gonna do whatever I can to fight this son of a bitch. I am. I've already been through enough hell in my life. I don't care what happens. One good thing that I think that has improved with me is I have a lot of courage now that I never used to have. I was a coward most of my life. I mean, you know, um, I was a coward. I was trying to just stay away from anything unpleasant, and I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, if I'm passionate, the thing about courage, if you're passionate enough about doing something, then you'll get it done, regardless of whatever kind of pain or hardship you have to go through to get there. If you're determined enough, and that's courage. I think courage, a big part of courage is determination. And I mean, you can't be stupid with courage. I mean, you can't just show off. A lot of people have the wrong idea about courage. Courage doesn't mean, skydiving for the hell of it or riding a bucking bronco or any of that. I think courage means doing something important that makes a difference and not being phased by whatever obstacles are in your way. That's how I see courage. At least that's kind of smart courage, and that's the kind I think I have. And like I said, since I was bullied so much as a kid, since I'd already gone through about as much hell as I could imagine, I don't care what other kind of hell I have to endure. I mean, the demonstrators in the '60s, a lot of them got beaten up pretty horribly by cops. Some of them even got killed. But they were determined enough to demonstrate against the Vietnam War, and maybe that's a little bit how I feel right now. If it's for a noble enough cause, I'll do it. I'm not going to hurt anybody else, but I'll risk being hurt. I think it's a risk worth taking. So anyway, maybe I've said enough for tonight. I mean, I didn't really talk about the news. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, I've been watching comedy news. A friend of mine said, because the news is too upsetting to watch, the real news. And besides, it's all biased anyway. It's either biased on the right or some of it's even biased on the left. And it's all opinions these days. It's not the same kind of objective news you used to get with Walter Cronkite. I mean, so but the best you can do now is watch comedy news. At least you can joke about it and laugh about what's going on. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple of months. And there's some really good comedy news shows like Jimmy Kimmel and Steve Colbert Report and The Daily Show, and one of my favorite guys, Bill Maher. A lot of people say he should run for president. I think he'd be a really good president. So not this guy though. But anyway, maybe I've said enough. Okay, I guess I'm gonna stop there. So thank you for watching. I guess I'll let's make a better world. This is from another video I made on this channel. At least it's a hopeful ending. Maybe we'll all end up going into space pretty soon. But I think we have to try to fix as many of the problems in this world as we can first. Anyway, thank you for watching, and um, let's make a better world, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.